Good morning, all. Welcome to this podcast focused on the evolved engagement framework for the impact platform at UBP. My name is Jean-Luc Eyssautier. I work in the London office with the impact team. I'm here with Adrien Cambonie, who is an analyst on the impact platform, who joined us in 2018. So hi, Adrien.
Hello, Jean-Luc.
So we're going to talk about the new, well, not the new, but the involved engagement framework, which is the environment that you use to engage with companies. Could you please tell us what has changed since 2018 in terms of engagement with companies and how you organize your work?
Yes, sure. So indeed, our engagement approach has evolved and has been reinforced. The main reason to this is the lack of comparability of non-financial information that we were observing in the world of impact investing and with which we have to work. So, for example, there sometimes exists different reporting requirements across industries and geographies, but we also see that companies develop different methodologies and have varying levels of resources to allocate to this. And so today, we can either use top-down data, which is easier to source, easier to scale, more homogeneous, such as CO2 emissions produced or water used, or there are bottom-up indicators, which usually better translate a company's positive impact, but they are harder to extract. Therefore, our work has been to try and bridge the gap between these data sets in order to create a more standardized and relevant way of measuring impact. So this implies a number of things. We had to determine what we wish to measure. We had to understand how to measure these components, but we also had to make sure that the companies were able to provide us with the necessary data and information. So as you can imagine, it involved a lot of interactions with them. And the result of this is our impact engagement framework, which explores 12 relevant areas of positive impact, covering both the qualitative and quantitative aspects. And we ran the framework with all of our companies.
Right, thanks. Can you, to work on this engagement framework, to engage with companies, are you using third-party providers? How long does it take to actually get the results? I mean, get the information from companies? And do you find a differentiation between a large company with a lot of resources? Do they communicate easy? You have a better communication with them? Or actually, does it make a difference, the size of the company, and are smaller companies, actually much more helpful?
So this framework has been developed within UBP's impact platform by the fund managers. And so as such, it does not use any external data providers because the ambition was really to create our own engagement database, which would appropriately mix top-down, bottom-up data, but also qualitative and quantitative indicators. So as you can imagine, it required us to interact with all of the companies in a relatively manual way, but we are very proud of the fact that in the end we got a 100% response rate. In terms of process, communication effectiveness varied from one company to the next, as you can imagine. Our quickest responses were received on the same day of our initial email, while other companies took weeks. And in fact, the longest one was 7 weeks to get satisfactory response elements. From our sample, though, I cannot say that there was a link between the size of the company and the speed of the response, and I would say that we saw all scenarios across the market cap spectrum. Finally, in terms of time, I think the exercise taught us that you need on average 4 hours of work per company if you want to account for the background research, the interaction, and analyzing the results.
Interesting. Finally, any observations you want to share with us? Any interesting company and observation information you want to share with us today?
There is a clear shift happening, and it is apparent that non-financial information and data is increasingly important to all the players of the industry, whether it be companies or the investors. So, for example, an indicator that we like to highlight is the Chief Sustainability Officer. It is a relatively new role, but it is growing very fast. And in our fund, we discovered that 24% of the companies already have it in place, while 67% have the intention of creating the role. So this really reflects the sort of new information that the framework allowed us to extract. If we look at company level now, for example, Croda, a company who we engaged with a lot over time, the framework allowed us to understand all the work that they have been doing with the partners to develop their new 2030 goals. And the most striking one for me is that every ton of emission emitted by the company will be offset by 4 tons avoided through use of their products.
Thank you, Adrien, for this. It's really, really interesting. I think there's a white paper that's been published and will be available on our website. So thanks all for listening. Again, if you need more information, please contact your sales representative and or visit the website ubp.com. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.